Everybody, it's happening probably 200 of it.
Amazing. And it will get worse. It's interesting that the whole. I mean, it's interesting that
I think it's fantastic what's
very
going on.
primitive,
Yeah,
primitive work
volcano.
can destroy the whole technology.
It's amazing, no? It's amazing. Can you imagine if we stay without electricity for 3 days? It would be weird. It's incredible how dependent we are becoming from the technology.
Yeah, it's true. When this city had the big power cuts.
It was crazy, no? That's
I'm
how
so
we
happy
live.
you're here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you get me here. You know?
How's the Hayward, right? You're doing the Hayward?
Yeah, it's going. It's working like crazy. You know? It's still working on the long run, and it's changing. Yesterday I making some new things. I mean, there is something stable, and I destabilize a little bit on certain way, but it's coming. You know that you realize that little by little you're getting the point where you're going. So it's almost done the whole concept, and of course we are working a lot because it's now. You know.
June, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of some things a little bit late, other things ahead, but I think it's going to be everything in
How
there.
many weeks before will you start putting the stuff in?
How many weeks before?
Before the opening?
3 weeks. It's a good time. For me, it's more than enough. But you know, in London, it's like that. You work from 8 to 10, then you have a tea break, then you have a lunchtime, then you have another tea break, then you have, you know, everything is very. I mean, it can be like that in museums here, in very heavy museums. But institutions like Consulate now, what's Hayward? It's not a museum. Here is much more flexible. It's very different. The way the agents there in the social life, I think, is more strong than here in a way. I mean, here you cannot swim in the lakes, but I don't know. In a daily life, it's
life everywhere is better than here.
no. I think agents they are maybe not. Then social life, we talk about social life in education that you receive because you have all this you don't touch here. Nah, there is but the agent as a state agency, I think there is more stronger than here. Maybe not is not in the people so much, but is on the state is very. You know, they told me that the people from Ireland, one day when the IRA, the people against the government, they was doing like that. They just go on the sidewalk, fall down, and broke their nose, fall down, broke something, and assume the state, So it was like 2 assumes every day of them making that, you know, very biting by the sides, you know, and the government was more scary about that than the bombs themselves. It was making more problems to them.
Yeah, the bombs actually, not so many people died. I once made the mathematics of this. You had more danger in an American city, much more likely to be shot in an American city than blown up by a bomb in Ireland. But the terrorists, of course, the main work of the terrorists is to make everybody feel like they'll be blown up tomorrow.
Yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah.
But it's the main work of the government too. So they both doing the same thing. You are scary by both 2 sides.
And in this country, of course, the main thing is to make people feel like being shot with a gun is not such a problem. But if a piece of a building falls and hits you, let's say breaks your arm, it will be the front page of the newspaper. A piece of Columbia University falls and breaks a student's arm.
Oh, really?
But if I shoot somebody at Columbia, I don't think it comes in the news. It's not interesting. What's really unacceptable is to be killed by a building. That's the worst part.
Interesting. Killed by a building.
It's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Yeah, unacceptable. But I'm thinking it should not be killed by a building.
Yeah. So they make every building so strong.
That it becomes so expensive, so complicated to do.
And also
anything.
nobody understands them anymore because they're so strong. Nobody understands something that's so strong.
Okay.
Even the engineer.
You know that I was talking with a guy. He's a cosmologist, physicist, and he researched about many things. So, professor, I was in a course, but he's kind of close to the art scene. And he was saying that why life exists is because of the fragility. Because if you pick up a physical thing like sand, sand, you broke the sand becomes always a smaller sand, a smaller sand, a smaller sand, but it doesn't change. Life, the micro life, you can change very much because of fragility of it, you know. So because of the fragility, you have the plurality of it, and this plurality that had been able to generate complex bodies like, you know, animals, whatever. But it's because this amount of fragility that we have in the micro, you know, we have like, I don't know, 1 billion cells and 4 billions of micro elements inside of us working for us to live at the same time. This
when Bucky Fuller used to give a lecture, he used to explain at the beginning, his lectures go 6 hours, he would explain how many of his brain cells were gone
oh really?
during the time of the lecture.
Who did that?
Mr. Fuller.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He was just trying to say,
I know.
trying to say that his body at the end of the lecture is a different body.
But he was there, no? No, it was on the 7th. No? Buck Miller. But anyway, I'm thinking about talking a little bit about the kiosk situation, this structure, and then I'm gonna go to Zanini Architect to make a link, and then I go to my work.
Great.
Okay?
Okay, we're going to begin. Just a few words of welcome to Ernesto. The trouble with introducing an artist is if the artist is good, everything you say will be stupid. If the artist is average, your introduction can be quite good. And if the artist is bad, you can be brilliant. So the problem with this guy is I can only be stupid. If I tell you what's interesting about the work, it's not interesting to hear this, because all that tells you is you should see the work. If I tell you what's not interesting about it, maybe that's better. But the main point I think to understand is that somehow in an architecture school, why it's important to listen to this artist. I think mainly it has to do with the fact that the installations, but even this word is not so great, that Ernesto is doing in spaces that seem to get bigger and bigger and more. It seems like in order to accommodate this work, the gallery has to get bigger and bigger. Part of what happens with the work is that there is no space left in the gallery. So actually the gallery disappears, and all you can do is occupy the work itself. So and these are very, very big spaces that are now filled with shapes that you can't avoid. Actually, you're inside the piece before you realize what happened. It's too late. Even if you said, I don't like this work, I need to get out, even if you're only 1 meter into the piece, you have 1 meter of fighting your way out. That 1 meter of fighting your way out is also you in the work, so you're in the work. So basically the work is a kind of an ambush, and it's a kind of architectural ambush because you are on the inside of the work. In other words, what you're not allowed to do is be outside, disconnected, patient, observing, consumer. It's too late. In some certain sense, you're being eaten by the work. So basically, he makes these installations of shape and color and texture, material, fabric, smell is a big issue, and also a little bit of confusion of what you are looking at. And in this confusion, you are eaten by the work. And then it becomes something like all of the famous stories of being inside the whale and spending some time in the whale before you come back out again. And also this is therefore very, very sensuous work. And sometimes when artists make work that's so powerfully sensuous, people imagine that the artist doesn't have anything to say, that it's actually all about sensuality and it's about stopping people from talking. So for example, I will stop talking and then you will see the work in its sensuality. But in reality, if you know Ernesto, he's talking a lot. He's talking a lot, and there's a lot of theory there, and quite specifically, there is the idea that when you're inside the work, you're inside your own body, or you're inside a body that you share with the other people that are there. So you become like, again, the 1960s movies like Raquel Welch and so on, in the body. All of these things, I think, are a challenge to architecture, because when the architecture is disappearing in the face of this organism that eats you as you enter, the question then becomes what happened to the architecture of the museum, but also what happens to architecture in general. Or maybe the other way around, maybe if you think a little bit about this work that you're going to see tonight, you're hearing a little bit of a lesson about architecture in general. In other words, let's forget about the name art, and let's just say it's an architect, and this is a specific architecture designed to, as it were, swallow the person who enters it. The other last thing I want to say is that there is an enormous generosity in the work. I mean, sometimes we think of generosity as like giving someone else a meal. Actually, you gave me a great meal in Rio. And this is generosity, but it might also be quite generous to eat somebody. I mean, to actually make them into the meal, and to cook them by eating them. And I think this is going on in the work, and I think you can see generosity absolutely everywhere in Ernesto Neto's work. Of course, it's a very Rio thing. It's what I think of when I think of Rio. But I'm also thinking, for example, that he's very taking a lot of care with fellow artists, and he's exhibiting other artists and thinking about them, and he's also taking care of a neighborhood in the city, and he's living in that neighborhood and thinking about that city and so on. All of these things imply a kind of generosity. So anyway, just a long, slow welcome to this kind of carnivorous artist. Be very careful. What I'm describing you about this work that happens when you enter what used to be the space of the gallery also happens when you look at an image. Be warned, this is your last chance to leave the room. This is an artist that eats people. It's going to happen here, and it's sort of a very big personal pleasure that you are here. And of course, this, I should say, officially, we're in the middle of Brazil Week. Because we're talking about Brazil, the week doesn't have 7 days, it has 10 days for us. Somehow to think of a week means also already 10 days. And in some senses, my fantasy is that if you look at the way the week is organized, there are artists that are coming in every few days to destroy the work of the architects that were on the day before. So we are now in this pattern of an architect, fantastic. The artist comes in, destruction, creation, then another artist. And this dialogue backwards and forwards between art and architecture, I think, is very, very important. I don't so much like happy families. I don't even believe in happy families. I think the kind of conflict between architecture and art is the most productive thing. And again, I'd invite you to consider this work that you're about to see as right from the beginning, starting a dialogue with architecture directly. And almost what people call art is the effect of this dialogue. It's not given to you like, oh, look at my art. There's a dance going on with architecture, and then you're invited into that dance. You want to call it art? Fine. Ernesto.
Hi. Thanks a lot, Mark. It was a pleasure to hear. I was trying all the time to think, oh, maybe he's talking about that, so I can begin by that. But then he was talking about other thing, then, So I don't know which one to begin. But I have to say that I have a very light meal today, so I really would like to eat something, but I'm not eating the audience anymore. I stopped with that. But it's very interesting also because this idea of eating it had been very important in Brazil history as this idea of anthropophagy, because the native Brazilians, maybe the Native Americans too, I'm not so sure, but the native Brazilians, they eat people, they eat their neighbors, they have fight with their neighbors, and when the neighbor was a very great warrior, the neighbor come to not because he want, of course, they take the neighbor, the other tribe, and get the guy kind of prison, but the prison was very nice. They give you one of their sister or their sister of somebody else to be her girlfriend, and he can have a good life for 1-2 years. But at some point they would need to kill him, and they would kill him in a big ritual, and everybody on the tribe would eat parts of him, even all the parts, you know. And even the mothers, they would put blood in the nipples for the babies, get the energy of that great warrior. And it would be an honor way to die, you know. You know, die was not so bad. But die in a bad way would be very bad. But die in that way would be very great. So, different culture. But they used that very much in the 20s in Brazil to make a kind of absorb the culture from Europe, to develop a kind of a national culture, but with a kind of modernism that was going on there. So they begin to call that anthropophagy. We go there, we eat all the ideas, and then we digest as a Brazilian and get out a tropical sculpture, or something like that, with some Western intellect mix, because we are mixed in Brazil. There is this important situation that I discovered 3 years ago. I was living in France, and I was asking, some people from Finland was interviewing me, and they asked, how do you feel showing in the West? I said, well, very well, normal, at home. Because in Brazil, we all think that we are Western, but I discovered that in Europe, nobody thinks we are Western. Because we are not pure, we are poor. That's the sentence that I found out when I researched with the people. And I begin to enjoy very much, because it's very great to don't be Western, because you don't need to behave as Western. And that's why we are not Western, because with the West, the idea of the West, this thing, at least for me, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not Western, so I don't have so much responsibility of that. But the West begins let's say 500 years ago, maybe something like that. And they begin to invent the West now, and they invent this idea of separate things, classify things, and divide. Now, the science, that's very important matrix of the world we live today. So this idea of separation is an interesting idea that didn't happen very much in Brazil. It happened very much the idea of mixing, and sexually, people went there and everybody begins to, no problem to have sex with different people, and then it began to mix and create a society. And this society, there is some rules on this society that, for example, what I think between this time that I'm spending in between Brazil and the West, I feel that there is a relation between the figure and the background. That is very, here in Europe, the relation between the figure and the background is very clear. Here's the figure, here's the background. There's no discussion about that. And in Brazil, it's not so much like that. There is a huge space between the figure and the background. Always a forest, sometimes, for the good and for the bad. And for example, if you go to the bus stop here, and you ask, the bus is on the red light, and you ask the bus to, hey, knock the door, can you open the door? And the guy say, what do you mean that? And that in Brazil, if the bus in the red light, you knock the door, they're going to open the door for you. And it's going to be very weird for Brazilians if they don't open the door. So this is an interesting thing for me, And what I wanna, I'm gonna divide this lecture in 2 parts, because we have this week of Brazil. There is this thing of architecture, and there is this thing of Olympic Games. Brazil is brick, cool. A lot of things going on, but the things are not so simple like that. So I want to talk a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the kiosk, and let's see which kiosk we're going to get here. So, oh, yeah, Christ, Brazil. That's not the real one, okay? So this is the new kiosk in Rio de Janeiro. You see, very nice architecture, or at least people like it. Sorry, I didn't got all the ones. Oh, again, that's the old kiosk of Rio de Janeiro. I like it very much, And so I'm going to go from one to the other just for 2 minutes, maybe less than it, if I can get all of the things. Yeah. So that's the new one. You see a very clean architecture. It reminds very much something like Potsdamer Platz, even though they try to put some kind of wood here to warm up, but it's all made by glass and plastic and steel, very pointy, very geometrical. It's much better than the other one. You have toilets downstairs, it's bigger, And these are the old ones, which is incredible that they live both together in Copacabana Beach. And you see that this one, you have the coconut hanging. You see the coconut over there? Let's go back to the other. You don't see the coconut on this one, right? Because in this kiosk, they are in the same beach. In this kiosk, you can open the coconut on the little ash. I don't know how to say that in English, but it's something that you make it with three, pa, pa, pa. And the new one, you cannot do that because it's not health and safe. Health and safety, you probably know about HNS. I have been dealing very much with HNS. Every time I have exhibition, HNS always arrive to say, oh, you cannot do that, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. It's not so easy to live with HNS in this world, but it's very interesting because they create problems and we try to find solutions, which is very interesting around Brazilian culture in a way. Once I was in Oslo and a guy asked me, but how is the political thing, in Brazil? I say, there is this thing of the samba, samba is something like that. You gotta have a swing here. The problem comes here. Say, ooh, let the problem go, You try to, because we are not used, it's very important that, because I begin to think about the Protestant dance, rock and roll, all these things that's great with some kind of African influence too, but you have the music very much about protest, and you dance, when you dance very much with the top part of your body, not with your ribs, And then I begin to think that I was in a concert from Seu Jorge, which is a singer, composer from Brazil, great, and it was a samba, basic samba stuff, and it was a big auditorium at the Royal Festival Hall, which is, I love that place, it's in London, the architecture there, I think is something incredible, very different than what I understand as London architecture and urbanism, but amazing. And it's very difficult to dance samba just with the top of your body, And I begin to think, I don't know if the music that are produced in the Western is produced more like that because you are used to be sitting down receiving the music, and maybe because there's no chairs in Brazil, people are used to be like that. So the music begin to be like that. I don't know what came first, but I think it's an interesting point because if people, we play soccer in Brazil, this thing that you call soccer, and there is FIFA, which is the World King, I don't know, the organization who organizes the football. And, it's forbidden to watch football in stand-up. Any game from FIFA, you cannot see it stand up. So in Brazil, you had a place in the Maracanã, it's a big stadium in Rio De Janeiro, that in the bottom, everybody stays stand up. It was amazing, People go there, go here, and now it doesn't exist anymore because it's forbidden. Because FIFA said that's not health and safety. You cannot be stand up. So ribs are a little bit controlled anymore. So I think there is something about controlling the humanity, the craziness that we are, our body, a controlation of our body. So one day, they make this architecture that I particularly think that is a little bit, you go to the beach, you don't wear that much clothes when you go to the beach, And so this thing that's very pointy, it hurts a little bit yourself, and you feel, okay, it's gonna hurt, I don't know. I think the other one was more subtle, So there is one problem that is forbidden to open the coconut in that way, So I'm going to put a CD for you, a little movie that I made when 3 years ago. I made this music. There was another mayor, not the mayor of today. But the mayor of today is the son of the old mayor, even though he thinks that he never met the guy before, But he's doing the same thing that the other guy did when he got and they got the power full of energy. And they want to, they want to do? Westernalize Rio de Janeiro. They want Rio de Janeiro to be, we gotta be like the Europeans. You know, they are great. Everything is organized. It's so perfect. The Americans, we have to learn with them, you know. That's what the Brazilian elite wants. Because the Brazilian elite thinks that they are Western. Because everybody is educated in Brazil. They tell us, they tell the kids, my kid is 9 years old, going to go to the school, they're going to tell him that he's Western. We don't study how was Africa, how was native Brazil. We just study the history of Europe and then the history of Brazil because we are Western. But everybody we know that we are not. But anyway, so let me see how I can show that for you. Enter full screen. I tell why I made, first 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I made the music. It was the first day that I went to the new kiosk to have a coconut on the new kiosk. And I discovered new things. And I didn't like the new things, and then I began to talk with the woman who was selling it. And I discovered new things that we just translate that. I don't know if you're going to get everything, but play.
Normalidade, descobrir a beleza e a matemática da escultura que cada coco é. O corpo do coco, na sua morfologia, se divide em 3 gomos, que se lançam ao espaço, formando um triângulo curvo, até se tornarem um ponto novamente. Este conhecimento chegou ao nosso olhar pelas mãos de sábios vendedores, que em 3 golpes certeiros, no topo de cada gomo, retiram uma pirâmide, abrindo assim a boca do coco, trazendo-nos à tona aquela água macia e cristalina para o bem de nossos olhos. Hoje, grandes corporações e políticos gananciosos querem acabar com esta obra, essa beleza, esta cultura, essa dança. Com essa poesia, eles querem empacotar o coco. Coco natural. Fora Ambev, Nestlé, McDonald's, Coca-Cola. Eu quero. Coco natural. Fora Ambev, Nestlé, McDonald's, Coca-Cola. Eu quero coco natural, cortado na machadinha, a gente vê se tá legal. Coco natural. Fora Ambev, Nestlé, McDonald's, Coca-Cola. Eu quero coco natural, cortado na machadinha, a gente vê se tá legal. Natural. Natural. Coco natural. Coco natural. Cortado na machadinha. Coco natural.
So this video, as I said, I did it I make the music 3 years ago, and I make the video like 1.5 years ago. What's the point here is that this way of open the coconut, that you have this dance, this way it didn't born like that. It took many years. When I was a kid, it was not like that. They open like that. I don't know if they begin to need to open so many coconuts, one after the other, because the crowd of the people get bigger, and they found this way that you open the coconut with these 3 hits on the, I don't know, 3 or whatever, in the thing. Bon, anyway, nowadays in the coconut, in the old kiosk, that we can in the old kiosk we can have like that. In this one, the new one, we cannot have like that. You cannot hang the coconut on the new kiosk. you cannot open the coconut with the little ash, so you don't have the poetry, the ballet of it. You gotta open with something that you put here like that, so you go to the inside. So sometimes when you take out the sprout, when you touch the water, you have some parts of it get inside of the sprout, you know. And you cannot open the coconut and take the flesh of the coconut and eat the flesh of the coconut. So what's the idea? They want to hide the coconut from you because they want to industrialize the coconut and sell just the fat coconut. Because then you can have coconut for all the companies like Rivian, Coca-Cola, Ambev, you know, any company, Brazilian, European, American, Japanese, whatever. So that's the idea. What the big companies does, you know, they put these guys on the power. Then they begin to say, okay, now we want to shut down the coconut because we want to make money there, you know. So it's very interesting how the HNS is being very much used for the big companies, in my opinion. And we have the Olympic Games. They want to make a shock of order on the beach now, so you cannot have somebody selling the ambulance. I have a picture of the ambulance if you guys want to see it too. It's a great ambulance that is forbidden now. Oh, this guy sell the balls. Probably it's going to be forbidden one day. This guy, he invents something, he sells something that's beep, 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 beep. This one, I love this one. This you sell many places. You have this, it's like a hook, and they have a kind of, you know, you can see that. They put somewhere, then they walk a little bit, put another place. This is the queijo coalho. Queijo coalho is forbidden on the beach now. So this guy, it arrives in Brazil, in Rio De Janeiro. The Brazil is very big, and I talk about Rio de Janeiro. I cannot talk about Brazil, I'm sorry. But about Rio de Janeiro, it arrives, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Suddenly it comes from an artist, somebody with these different kind of ovens, and they make that on the beach for you, you know. And this was amazing, but oh, so good to have the queijo coalho. And then everybody has queijo coalho. So this now is forbidden on the beach. But Cheetos, Fandangos, Doritos, you know, these packs, totally industrialized, that is very good for your health. This is not forbidden, you know. So my kid, he can eat that, but not the queijo coalho, because the big companies are not making the profits. Also, there's many other things going on there. So, but when the people make the movie for the Olympic Games, on the movie, which kiosk do you think they use? They use the old kiosk, because the old kiosk has a lot to do with the Brazilian architecture. You know, the old kiosk, which is just new appears. Okay, the old kiosk, you know, who has this wood, blah, blah. Remember, a little bit, for me, the architecture of somebody that had been very important in Rio de Janeiro, very important in my life. I have learned very much with him. And his name is Zanini Caldas. He made models for the modernist guys like Niemeyer, Reide, you know, I don't know all the what's the guy? Lúcio Costa. You know, Lúcio Costa was very guy that had been very much on his defense because he was not an architect. He made these models, then he began to make it a chairs design in the 50s, and then in the 60s, end of the 60s, he began to make this house in Rio de Janeiro. That I think that this house, I have some, you know, I just got today, I asked people to send it to me because I thought it would be interesting to I didn't choose them, you know, but anyway, you can have an idea. So we have a roof that's inside of a house. So you see how is the stair are thinking, how the space are thinking. Oh, shit. Back again to the beginning, sorry. Let's put on this one here. Full screen. So you see there is a lot of glass on the house. It's not, but I think it's a very important architecture for Brazil. You see how he tried to put the house and the nature there is a continuity between the house and the nature. It's very interesting how the beams, or you see here, there is a wall, but you see the beam, you know, you could cover the beam, but he wants to show the structure of the thing. Many connections, you see how is the connecting the wood, the parts of it. And then, oh my God, thanks. So what I think, this architecture of Zanini, it exists in the whole Brazil a little bit, you know. I mean, maybe not the whole, but for example, this is a station of bus in Bahia. You see? How's that? There is this colonial roof, you know, the walls. There is a link to the colonial tradition of Brazil. And you go to Búzios, you go to many places, Bahia, you go to the Rios, and you're gonna see a lot of houses like that. You know, and I think this kiosk that we have, the old kiosk, is a little bit fruit of that thing. So I think it's interesting when the guy, you see many architecture that you say, oh, this is a Zanini. But it's not a Zanini. It's somebody who made something that is related to that, because this becomes very representative in Brazil. And my father had built many of his houses. So that's why I had lived in a house like that. So it had been very important for me in terms of architecture. So I decided to bring that for you today, okay? And I'm gonna begin to show my work to you, because maybe that's what I should have done since the beginning, you know. So, you know, this is a work named ABA. It's a kind of piece that you can put in different parts. You can put one part here, the other on top of the table. You can put it then on the wall here, and the other one here. You know, you can make it different size of the board, and where you put, you have different ways. So, let me have a quick introduction. I am somebody that comes, let's say, a Porsche constructivism from Brazil, which include very much the more important moment, in my opinion, that is the neoconcretism. People like Amilcar de Castro, Willis de Castro, Hércules Barzotti, Ligia Clark, Elliot Sica, Franz Weismann, let's say, would be some of them who had developed a very important intellectual development of an idea of a concrete world, but with some substance of some subjectivity, you know. I think there is a situation, a political situation when it begins, but I'm not going to get inside of it because that's going to be too much. But they was built in Brasilia in that time, you know. And Brasilia is very utopic, but it's very utopic in the sense of the architecture, but in the social sense, the ideas are very utopic, but it didn't happen like that, you know. People had been to get out there, you know, so I have some doubts. Anyway, then I make this piece named Bar Ball, that you have a ball, you have a bar, you put them together, you have art. You separate them, you have no art anymore. So I was kind of, especially there is other works before that one that was very sensual with textile, that I didn't think that I was arriving in the contemporary world. I think I was really a student still. And with this piece, with this flexibility of this ball, I begin to want to make a body that would be a skin and many cells, you know? Because in fact I would do an exhibition. The exhibitions have been very important to me. I always developed many things because of it. I would do an exhibition of these two works, and there was a mezzanine in the gallery. And I want to put a textile and a bar floating on the mezzanine. But when I make a test and begin to test that on my studio, which was my sleeping room, the bar was hurting so much the textile, you know, that I begin to think that it's not working. Then I begin to work with little balls. Then come this idea of the cells. And then I make this piece here. Oh, that's the piece, a big size. I made this piece that is named weight particles, and is a stocking with lead balls inside, lead for shooting guns. So it was a very interesting time in my life, because I go to this shops for hunters, and there was these guys very strong, some of them like that, yeah. So I buy a lot of lead, and then I went to the other shop with all these girls with stockings, So it was very interesting in my life, big polarity. So when you let it falls down like that, So there is a transition of state when the thing falls down. Of course, that is the idea of fertility, egg, and things like that, So I think there was idea of community too. When you put them together, they begin to deal with each other, Because my work, everything that you're going to see now, is all about relationship. Everything is about relationship, in my opinion. Even in a lecture here, I'm having a relationship. Maybe tomorrow would be different. Maybe if the air conditioner was hotter, would be different. You never know how it's going to be things. And always when you talk to each other, we are changing things. So when you let a piece of this fall down on the other, in a way, this piece deformates the other piece. So it's an interesting way. It's a way that keep going on that idea of the constructivism that had been so important in my country, at least for me, but in a kind of more organic way, more dancing way, more, I don't know, embryologic way, something more genetic, more biological. So this is the second exhibition I did. It is a rebuild of it. And I begin to have create a kind of narrative, a kind of language with that. So depending the way you let fall down, for example, this column here, that's the column on this and that one. If you let the things fall like that, they become very flat, You see they are very flat. If you let them fall like this, they become more relaxed, So you have different spirits with the same piece, So it's a work. Another thing that was very important of this work, you are an artist, you have something inside of you that you want to put in the wall, So this idea with this piece, when you have it in your hand, and it erupts from your body, through your arm, and then you put on the ground, that's the idea that I think, that's what should be art for me. It's something that goes out like that and we put in the world, So that's what I'm trying to be since then. So that's some connections. The name of these works are copulas because they are one biting the other. Maybe there is some anthropophagy on it, or there is some desire of eating that Marx said. But there is this relationship between the ground and the sky. This thing, there is, I think it's Shakespeare, no? I don't know. There is something else between the ground and the heaven. I don't know in English. In Portuguese, I think I knew, I forgot. But it was interesting to have this point, that you take this point out of the verticality of the plume. Because it's very interesting. In the nature, you never see something straight down. You never see a straight line. I mean, we make straight lines. Now, we have a table, we have a straight line. But we don't see that in the nature. But when you have a stone falling down, we see this line going straight, And the gravity is a very interesting element to work for me because, you gotta stand up now. I'm a sculptor, I gotta put the thing up. And I think might be something interesting for the architecture. In general, the architecture that I like the most is the one that deal clear with the gravity. You see the gravity in the building. So this is a piece that I did at Tanya Monachina Gallery. It's the first exhibition I did in New York. And these pieces are made with spices. So you have clove, turmeric, clove again, anato, and what's that? Flour. Thanks. So this piece, when I make this piece, I was already doing another thing that I forgot to put here, and I didn't want to work with stockings at all, but I went to a shop to buy a friend of mine wanted to buy some kind of food that I went to this shop near my studio, and this shop is full of spices, big bags of spices. I like the idea of the bag, the content in the continent, that you carry something. And I got stunned by that, I was like, wow, I think I was so free, I was not buying anything. And I walked away, and 2 blocks away, I came back here and I bought some spice. I didn't know what to do. I want to put in a box. But in 1 week, it was in a stocking. But the smell was kind of strong, And then I realized, feel the smell. I think it was the turmeric. That is very, very heavy smell. It's not heavy. It's heavy with the long time. You know, the convivence. Then I bought some other smells, like the clove. I bought some pepper. We don't have pepper in this edition, which is a mistake. There was a red pepper that I'm so sad that I did not put here. But anyway, it's too late now. It was 1997, so 13 years ago. But anyway, what was interesting when I get these other spices that I create an environment of smell. So if you have the environment of smell, the smell doesn't become so disgusting. It doesn't. You can deal better with that because there is some smell here, but there is another one there. So you have this mix, like impressionist mix of the smell. And I have to make a title for this exhibition because my gallery was calling, hey, Ernesto, what's the title of the works? We need to have the title of the works, you know, blah, blah, blah. But before I had this piece, so sorry, I went too fast. Before I had this piece, it was like that. It was a long piece like that with the nose falling down here. So when I have to move them, I pick up them like that and I move here. Like that, completely dirty and was so boring to do it. And the piece is still there. I didn't understand what was the piece. So I didn't have to finish the work. It took like, I don't know, 7 months from one part to the second part. And the second part looks like stupid. You're going to say, Ernesto, it's ridiculous. You already been doing that before. But, you know, we never know. Sometimes we are stupid. Yeah. It's good to be. I like it. You know, so suddenly I pick up it through the mouth of it. I roll the mouth of it, and then I pick up that and I let that. Boom. And then I realized that I could pick up again, carry it again here, very easy, come over here, and boom, creep it again, you know. So it has the same identity. You don't change the sculpture when you move it, because that's what was happening before. So with this identity, I begin to understand that it was a work. And then, like 2 months later, I was in the situation that I have to, you know, what's the title? And then I realized that I was already working with biological problems again. So I went to a second-hand bookshop to buy a book of biology. And then I arrived in this bookshop. And then I saw a nice book with big cell. That's this Science Life, something like that. It's kind of American production, but it was in Portuguese. And then I begin to move the page, and I forget that I forget also to put this drawing. I always forget to put these drawings on, because this part of the lecture is a part that I like, you know. Because of many things. But I had been doing some drawings that I put the paper on the water, and then I take it off the water and I let the ink fall on it, and makes a lot of dots exploding, like if it was stars, you know. When you make like this, you make so it makes it look like a spine, you know. It's amazing to do. Not so good to look, but to do is cool. Some people like, but I like more to do than to see. But I like to see too. But anyway, I'm not a collector, so it's not a problem. But anyway, so then I was looking to the book, and I saw a picture on the book that I have a drawing, a photography, microphotography, very similar to these drawings. And you know what's the name of it? Chromosomic spoofs. So that's the poof, puff, poof, poof, beef, beef, puff, poof, beef, puff. So I think there is something very important. It looks like a joke, but it's not. This one is very bad. This one is very dribble. This one is bad, tough, but it's not so bad like beef. No, the opposite, not so dribble as beef. And poof is more inside, you know. So I think the form has a relation to the sound of it. And there is something else. The turmeric is a material that the color is that bright color, that dribble color, but the smell is very down, you know, it's very while the clove, who has this color, very down, the smell is very dribble, like very long, you know. So I think it's interesting, this relation between that. And I think it's very interesting, this situation, that this whole piece had happened by chance. Some things that happened here, some things that had happened there. Sometimes it looks like it's by chance, but I went out, I thought I had to find a book. I went to the shop, I picked up the first book, I opened the thing, and I found a solution for the problem I had. So I mean, looks like magic. But you know what's interesting I discover all the day? You know when you have a great idea, maybe you guys gonna make a building architecture and you have a great idea and boy, this is fantastic. Can you imagine? This idea could just pass beside me and I wouldn't catch it. I wouldn't see it. So you know what that means? That a lot of good ideas can be passing around us all the time and we are not catching it. So it's scary, you know? So let's go. So this piece, important piece to this guy is the anatomy of my body. I was doing an exhibition in the art fair. Everybody hates art fair. Art fair is shit. This is just commercial, blah, blah, blah. I was a kid, and there was this space for the art fair. It's a statement. So it's a solo show, and you have many booths. So you don't have ceiling on the booths. And I have been in a Biennale before that there was kind of same architecture but bigger, you know. And I hate the thing that you had no ceiling, because the feeling that I had was that the emptiness of ceiling, of the fact that there was the ceiling over there and not the ceiling in the end of the wall, was taking out the whole energy, the whole soul of the piece. So, and I said, I'm going to have to deal with this situation again, and this is a problem for my work, for myself. And then I said, oh, that's a good idea. Let's make the thing coming from the ceiling. So this piece, in fact, I always wanted to do this piece. I just realized later. This piece is also an idea that we were underwater, you know. So I think this is more landscape, but if you are underwater. But what is interesting here is that I begin to be invited for some exhibitions. And because of my work, I begin to have to deal with the architecture, like stretching it over there, stretching it over there, stretching it over there. So from that, I begin to deal in another way to the architecture, which is this situation here, that had been developed. In this situation, this piece is named "We Fish in the Time." So we have all this weight falling down, we have some stockings stretching here, and you have hooks all the way around creating a horizon, creating this idea of a sea level that we had in the piece before, but with this thing very wavily, because it goes up and down to hold the weight of all this spice, you know. It's a curry. There is even curry on this piece. In one of these bags are curry. You buy the curry. But I discovered that curry is not that. Probably you know, but I didn't know. I was in Australia, and the guy was in his house. He loves to make curry. And he explained to me, but Ernesto, a curry is a mix. Anybody can do a different curry. So it's stupid to put a curry inside of a piece that is already a curry. But anyway. So this piece I did at Venice Biennale. Was very important for me, this piece. Because if you see the other piece, I had attached hooks all the way around, and I make this piece. The curator, Harold Zimmerman, when he invited me for this exhibition, he said, Ernesto, I would like you to do a spice piece here, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, Harold, but I don't want to make a spice. I already did a spice over there. I want to do something else that I'm working now. No, Ernesto, spice is good. Come over here. When I arrived in the place, and I saw all this roofless, all this kind of, this wall here, you take out the wall. If you make like this, it goes out, you know. It's like powder, you know, sand, clay, whatever, pieces of parts of it. And the situation that happened, very important, that I forgot to say, on this works with spice, is that the spice, as you can see, goes through the pores of the body. And the idea of the body is a fundamental idea, the inside and outside of the body, the interior, exterior, how the passageway between inside and outside. So when I had this thing crossing, first I had a piece in plaster, that in calc, in fact. I don't know how it's called in English, but anyway, calc maybe. So it has this situation of cross the border, but with the spice, you cross the border and also you create a field of smell, you know. So this idea of the gravity has a field. It falls down, it expands. Then it crosses the border, it expands more. And then you have the smell, it expands more. So I was really working in this idea, how to hold the space, how to deal with the space in every sense. So the problem to do a piece, I could not put hooks on the wall to do a piece similar to the piece I have done in this Liverpool Biennale before, the one We Fish in the Time. It's We Fish in the Time. I like to make titles with mistakes in the language, you know, because I think sometimes when you have a mistake on the sentence, we create a kind of unstable sort of meaning, let's say. So in this situation, I remember I was coming back to, and you cannot touch anything because everything is historical patrimonial. So when I said this thing of agency, it's okay, but the thing that we have problems is great. Problems are fantastic. I want big problems, you know, because then you find new solutions, you move ahead, you know. So that's what I talk about the thing of the family, you know. Well, yes, we need the problem. We need to be, sometimes you go to the beach, you don't do anything, and the time of the exhibition is coming. Yeah, you gotta do it. And then you are smashed by the time, and then the idea comes, you know. So we cannot run to the idea. I mean, you can try, you know, you're gonna get tired, but I can't, you know. People go, hey, I don't know yet. I don't know. It didn't come out. So sometimes it's a little bit scary. And sometimes I hit the wall too, you know. It's not every day that we survive, but it's still alive, but, you know, it's not every day. But in this day, I remember I was coming back to Brazil, and I called my girl, and I said, you know, Lilia, I don't know, because we can't do this, we can't do this. Now you can't do all of it. How are you gonna do? Say, I don't know, but I have a feeling that tomorrow I'm gonna wake up with the idea in my head. So I flew, I wake up in the airplane, and say, ting, the idea was in my head. Oh, it's so great, isn't it? It's possible, you know? Yeah. So the idea is very simple idea. Is that what we had? We have a layer, you know, we had a horizon, a sea level. And then you put another layer in the top of this level and sew these parts. So you don't have anymore a sea level. You begin to have a body. That's very interesting. When you have one line, you have landscape. When you have two lines, you have a body because it's a closed line, you know. I mean, it's very simple on the drawing. Yeah, this is a landscape and this is a body, you know. Mathematics also thinks about that. But when you talk about textile, you don't think like it. You don't go to the mathematics to solve your problems. You eat mathematics and thanks God sometimes you solve your problems. But God and devils now, all the gods. I'm not very monotheist. No. But anyway, back to the situation. The situation is, because the problem is to hold the weight. We have a square. We're going to stretch the square here, and there. When you have all the weight here, and I want to have a lot of weight because I want to show the weight. The weight, the texture, the smell, the density, the body, you know, the screen, let's say. So when you have two things, we already have it here. So what's the idea? I make a connection, you know, I make some connections that you can see here. You see, there is a connection between the top fabric to the bottom fabric. Here is another connection between the top fabric and the bottom fabric. Here is another connection. These drops are weighting, making the weight, stretching the piece down. These drops here, not. They get out here, they go to the top here, and they can fall down, crossing the piece. So that's what I begin to work and what I discovered in that night when I had this idea of how to hold this weight. And with this situation, we create much more interesting also internal structure to the piece. You know, the question of the monotony. Because the minimalism had been very important to me too. You know, I mean, I'm not just Brazilian art history, of course, art povera too, you know, and you know, you got to study the whole sculpture, all history, of course, everything. But the minimalism had been very important to me. And I have been thinking very much about the minimalism, the world we live today. And there's one moment that was very important to me when I went to Mexico City. I went to Mexico City, and of course, I went to the Anthropological Museum and the pyramids. And I get just crazy at the Anthropological Museum. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, that sculpture that I was seeing. And the feeling that I begin to have in relation to Greek sculptures, because we think we are Western, so we study Egyptian sculpture, then Greek sculpture, like you guys do. But anyway, it's good study. I don't think it's bad. You know, I love Greek sculpture and Egyptian sculpture too. As I love also, you know, Indian sculptures and, you know, Buddhist sculpture, whatever. There's sculpture, amazing sculpture, African, you know, everywhere. But anyway, if you think about it's very interesting. I've been thinking about these metaphysics of the Greek and the Egyptian. The Egypt landscape is a very horizontal landscape. So you have the idea that yourself and the horizon. The Greece also is not so, it's more hilly, but it's very dry. You don't have so many trees, you know. And you have the big sea, so you again have a dry landscape, a dry background. And in Mexico was different. They found sculpture complete full of plants around, you know. Hey, what's this bush? Oh, that's weird. Let's open that. Oh, there's a head here. Oh, and then there is a Olmeca head, you know. Sometimes even a pyramid. So what means that? What I saw in that sculpture is that there is too many life, a lot of life happening at the same time. Life in the sense of vegetables, you know, animals. You have so much life, and life is connected to other things, to this thing, to this thing. You know, almost you know, symbiosis, mutualism, all this relationship, that's integration and disintegration of things. You know, in Brazil, and this is very much what happens in Brazil, you know. You have excess, it's a problem there. Sometimes you hear there's a wall here and begin to grow a tree here. And it broke the wall, you know. So you gotta kill the tree, but the tree doesn't want to kill. You cut the tree, 2 months later, she's back again, you know. So there is this kind of situation of a very hardcore nature, you know. And this is very interesting to try to understand our behavior. Because there's no problem. When I say that we are not West, I have nothing against the West. I love the West, you know, fantastic. You know, how 1/3 of myself is Western. But the question is that if you keep thinking that we are Western, we not understand what we are. And we are a society that comes on a place that the vegetation is very complex, and there's a lot of relationships, symbiosis, mutualism, and everything is happening together at the same time. And then, if you think about a tradition, a Protestant tradition, you know, whatever, I say Protestant, but I don't understand very much these things, you know. But, you know, a Greek and blah, blah. You have the piece, you have the object, tomb, the space and the object. And, wow, you know, 80s, they put one painting here, another painting there, and another painting there. And you create a lot of value for the thing. You really create a lot of value for the thing. But this is not what's going on. That's not how I see the life. You know, I see the life with a lot of things going on at the same time. You know, all these cables going on everywhere. That's the world we are living. I think if you live in a big city, you cannot be so minimalist. There's no space anymore for that, you know. Even in the society here, you know, I think the situation that we are living with this enormous amount of information, I have to protect myself from the information, you know, because it's too much, you know. So I think it's interesting to pay attention on this pre-Columbian art also with this kind of approach. And so when you have this piece and you have this background, when I saw this wall, I said, yes, you're right, Harold. It should be a spice piece, you know. And then we made a spice piece. And this situation of that Mark was trying to talk about my work and how my work is because of this situation that I'm living that, you know, I cannot be so organized because there is too many things happening at the same time, you know. So anyway, let's keep going on. So this is the piece seen from far away, just to have an idea. And this is Navedenga. It's another exhibition that I did in New York. In fact, it's the second exhibition I did at Tânia Monaco de Gallery. And this had been very important to work with me. This piece, the idea of this piece, that's not the first one, okay? This piece I have done the first time when I was in when I came back from Mexico. So I had this week in Mexico, because it's that thing, it's this thing, you know, about life. Life, I'm studying these guys, you know. Life looks like you have a lot of elements, a lot of molecules on the soup. Everybody knows a little bit about that. So there's no new thing. But then it began to be more saturated, and then energy on the top, and it begins to create membranes. It begins to create membranes, and the membrane is the key thing of life, because you can protect an element. So you have a reactor of energy here, and you have a membrane who protects it. And the membrane is going to deal what's going to come in and what's going to get out, you know. It's not because of that I make this sculpture. I was already doing that, and doesn't matter. It's not the question is that I was in Mexico, and beyond, it was an exhibition named Así está la cosa. I love this name. Así está la cosa means that's the way things are. So the curators, you know, they just said, that's what's going on. You know, I don't know if it's right, I don't know if it's wrong, you know, but that's what the contemporary art in Latin America in the end of the 90s, or maybe, yeah, end of the night, in 97 maybe, or maybe 97. And the situation was amazing, melting pot, you meet a lot of people, you know what time is the lunch time in Mexico? Begin at 4 o'clock. You know, they drink tequila with sangrita. Then, the night, they work till 11 o'clock, because everything is different. And so there was all this situation of these Olmecas, Aztecas, Mayas, Toltecas, sculptures, pyramids, people, and tequila. You know what else? Tokens. You know what's tokens? Tokens is something like that they have in the popular area there. You are very drunk, and they arrive and they sell that for you as a service. They have a kind of box here with a resistance, electric power resistance. And they have cables with two, do you think Ernesto will allow that? With two pipes, metal pipes, And we are with some people on the table, they are like, hey, you want to talk? Yeah, sure, let's have some talkers, yeah. So you put your hand on the pipe here, metal pipe, and you give hands to your friends. And the last friend put their hand in the pipe again. Yeah. And then they begin to turn on the energy. Then they begin like just a little bit. So it's very cool. So that's good. When you undo the hand, it cuts the energy, it cuts the current, So it's fine. So at some point somebody stops. And this is good because then you can drink more tequilas, and this kind of. But anyway, so I think what I'm saying is that there was all this cocktail, all this energy falling down, this amount of people, and this is very important for creation, for revolution. And this guy loves the word revolution. I'm a little bit, I have so many doubts about the word revolution, because there's too many revolutions sometimes. But I never know. We gotta keep going on, So I'm in favor. But the revolution but you have the revolution or the solution or the crazy-lution or whatever, with that situation, that extreme energy in the pot, in the cooking. Once I give a lecture, I had this lecture once, that's it. I'm not gonna tell about that. One day I send a drawing for that for you. But anyway, so I arrived back home. I was like that. The bag is on. I'm in the bed here. Should I stay or should I go? That's always doubt. Should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or go? Brazil stay. Go to Brazil. So I went to Brazil. And I went to Rio De Janeiro. It was great. We stopped in the middle of the night. We stopped at Amazon, and it changed completely the type of people in the airplane. It was incredible. Then there was an artist, great artist named Barrio, beside me. We were drinking a lot. It was crazy. He always tell me that story. But I arrived in Brazil, and I forgot my keys in the hotel. My home key, my car key. Then I went to my mother's house. And there was nobody there, so I jumped the fence. I got in the house, and I slept like that, when you are like, very small, when you need to be hugged by nothing. Because nobody was hugging me, so you try to hug yourself by yourself. It happens sometimes. And didn't know what was going on. Then I went to my home, and the next day was Monday, so I get a guy to open the door and everything, blah, blah. I went out, I met a friend, I had 2 beers, then I came back, then a kind of ex-girlfriend make a phone call that was so bad, phone call, and then I threw out a kind of white thing that looks like the puka. Oh, it's kind of drink from Mexico, but I had this drink 3 days ago. Couldn't be it. But it was white, I don't know even if this story is true anymore, because it's so weird. But that's what I lived, That's, if you think it is, it probably, maybe it was. But who cares? What's the difference? The fact that we are here now, and I don't know why I am here, but anyway, that's what I do, So anyway, so, cara, I spent 1 week alone I didn't talk with anybody, and I developed the whole concept of this idea, which the concept was a simple idea that I have some sculpture. For example, this is an ovaloid, hanging there is a drop, which is like a plume. So it's kind of a works of mine that I had, and that I wanted to create a gallery for that pieces, you know. First was like that, you know, create an environment that we could get in and have this relation with these pieces. And then I began to realize while I was doing that and developing and reading and drawing it, that this was a kind of concept of a body, because you have the body and you have the organelles inside of the body, you know. So I began to develop this work. That's Navedenga, that's the inside of it. Oh, that's a jump, my God. Why you are there? So that's why I'm looking for it. Let me see what's... Yeah, that's Nude Plasmique. We go back to that place, you know. That's Nude Plasmique, which is a piece that you can get inside. You have this kind of aisles in this situation. For example, when I have a drop like that here, you have to create space, you know. Create space sometimes is interrupt space. A space that is just an open space is very boring. You don't stimulate, you don't let the people feel what means the space and what means that space. But if you cut that, share in the middle of the way, you know, then you're going to have to move. You're going to have to move here, and then you can move here, and then you can come back, or not, you know, keep going on. But you create an obstacle, an accident in the middle of the way. So I like very much to put accidents in the middle of the way. You know, I'm very nice, you know, let the body for the people, but with some accidents. So this is a casa nave. Navy is idea of spaceship. Once I was here in New York, first time I had this vision here at the Drawing Center, and there was a lecture, and I was walking because I was very nervous, and walking and saying many things, and I said, you know, because I feel my body as a space navy. And then a friend of mine later said, hey, Ernesto, it's not a space navy, it's a spaceship. So I got so, kind of, made something wrong, that I decided to put navy in the name of these things, because I think the concept has to do with the idea of spaceship, because our body is our relation to the world, you know. Because there is this thing that the body and the mind are separated, you know. It's so difficult for me to understand that. But anyway, it's my body and our time. We are here, there is a time, and one day we go. But I don't care about going, I like to be. So this was made in a house of a collector, great collector, Rosa de la Cruz, who had been very important to me. And you see there is this connection with the architecture. So that's why I try to bring that for you. And this is another nave that is hanging by itself, you know. If people can walk in. So that is the situation of the nave. You have to take your shoes. It's so complicated. You have to take your shoes, and then you walk with it, but sometimes it rips, you know, and then there's big problems, you know. So, yeah. Problems, but I like it. So that's a big one. We almost didn't put up, you know. We put up, begin to put up, and it began to fall down, you know. It didn't work out. But then I found a way to put up. We fixed some things. I have to sew a lot there because also, too technical explanation. But oh, that's you don't see the outline, huh? Oh, it doesn't fade so much to the ground, but I would love to do it. It was physical possible. It has an end in the other side. That's Blue Cave. That one was Ovogenesis, was the first piece in this type, and that's Blue Cave. It's pretty fast. That's the humanoids. You know, the humanoids. It looks like figurative, isn't it? Looks like a figure, huh? Like for me, it looks like, you know, these guys from Eastern Island. I like that guy. I don't think they're from there. Love to see that. Maybe I'm afraid about that. Anyway, it's difficult to get out, maybe. But anyway, it's not in purpose that it was made like that. In fact, I want to make a piece that you could dress the piece. And you can dress this piece, you know. So the problem was how to connect one of these ovaloids to the clothes. So I decided to make a clothes like this, big like that, and a piece, and connect the piece to the clothes. The clothes, not the, I don't know, it's close, yeah? But it was a matching, it was a terrible result. And then I stopped, and I had to do it that day. I had to travel the other day. We had to begin. I was supposed to live 5 months in Cologne, and this was for that exhibition. I want to decide the things while I was in Brazil, And then I began to look. We have the tube, we make the overload. Because very simple, everything this works, I like to make simple things, Once I had a piece all in equilibrium, and art critic came there, a friend of mine, we are both young guys. Yeah, Ernesto, because this work, this precarity, because of the precarity, and this guy saying about precarity. What is talking about precarity? Where is precarity? What is precarity? But the thing was a piece of stocking, and there is a knot in each corner of it, flat thing, and from these knots, it would go in the top of 4 tubes, 4 pipes of copper tubes for hot water, and then it would go down in 4 blocks of steel, okay, beam, square beam, this size, this big. It would hold, and in the center of this stocking, there will be an amount of lead, this lead for shutting up. So it stays in equilibrium when you move it, everything balanced, everything, Calder had been very important to me. Yeah, I studied Calder in the beginning, so everything balanced, and I love it. And it was all made by knots. And the guy saying that this was precarious, and I was thinking, precarious? I think this is so sophisticated. What is sophisticated for you? Is something made by screws? This is stupid to make a work with screws, I think there's no poetry on it. You make it with your hand. You go there, pick up what you have, and go there and make the piece. Why? But anyway, I didn't know what was precarious in that time. So the question of this sculpture is that you have a tube. Then I begin to look, and I ask you guys, what's the negative of our body? Because that's what I thought. I want to make a sculpture that will dress the sculpture. So you have to think about the negative of the body. What's the negative of the body? Everybody's wearing it. It's the inside of our shirt. Yeah? The form of the inside of our shirt is the negative of our body. That's why you use it, and it's comfortable to use. So I pick up a shirt, I cut it here, I make the tube was here, so that's the side of it, it's long, okay? The tube is here, I make one cut here like that, another cut like this, and another cut like that, so you dress from here. So this big nose that you see is bigger because I stretch it, but even on the small one, on the t-shirt, white t-shirt, without these parts of it, you have a little nose here. And that's why it becomes figurative, because it's the negative of our body. Looks like the eyes, looks like something like that. But the problem come from another part. So that's the humanoids. There is a secret thing on the humanoids. Because they have different size, because they have babies, adults, little family. And you see that they have a hole here? No, you are allowed to put your head inside. And, that's how you find out if it's a man or it's a woman. So half of the humanoids was men and the other half was women, So then, there was this situation. This guy invited me to do an exhibition in this gigantic building. Not so tall, like 3 meters, which means 12 feet high. And skylights, all of them in marble. 70 meters by 35, what means 210 feet by 90 feet. So, was amazing. And I didn't know what to do, of course, like always. That's the good thing. I mean, you see that I didn't know, but everything's a little bit close to what I did before, because, in fact, I'm always doing the same thing, So that's the Malmo experience piece. And this is the plan of the place. So I decided to put the plan because you guys are architects. So I began to draw that, So what's interesting here that you are here, looks like you are inside of the piece, but in fact you are outside. You come over here and you get out of the piece. So inside here and everywhere inside, we have a kind of small foam and cotton fabric. I begin to work with the cotton fabric. The cotton fabric is much more relaxed, you know. It's not so tense, not so beautiful, not so elegant like the other one, but it's so relaxed. It smells so good. You feel so comfortable in it, and you don't see anything from the outside. So I just want forget about the world. Let's forget it and take a break, you know. And I wanted to make a kind of retrospective. So here is a kind of work, skeletal globulus. Here is this kind of mattress that I have done. Here there was some polyps. Here there was, what's the name of it? Looks like a nest. I don't remember the name. A glop. This was a foam piece and other things, blah, blah. And here we have some spice piece, because I could put the spice piece outside, because inside would be a mess, you know. So you could have, and I was saying to them that there was a phagocytosis. So the work was eating the spice pieces. But of course, this was just fantasy, no? But that's what we were talking about. So that's it. Mama Experience was made in 2006. This piece here was made in 2001, I guess. It was another exhibition at Tânia Bonacci Gallery, and the name is Blue Cave. Oh my God, this is a jump. So I don't know. Sorry about that. But we're back to another piece like that one, like the Mama Experience. I did these two pieces, and there is, Allah. Isn't it beautiful? Two people, robots in love. That's what the idea, you know? You see they are kissing each other, but you can't see very well because it's too light. But the question is that you don't see it. You know, when you are inside of the piece, you don't get it. And this piece was made in Japan. And because in Japan they love these toys, and I love the toys too, almost all the pieces that you get inside in Japan that I made, they have been made with a figurative form outside. If you see the plan, there is a figure. But you don't see that when you see that. So that's not very different than that, because that's the dangerous logic of wooing, which is a piece like a mattress, and I decide to hang the mattress to see how the weight fall down on it, you know. So this piece was shown at the Hirshhorn Museum, and was a big adventure to do. It split out, you know, there was ripping, there was styrofoam everywhere, you know, because you weren't liking, you know, testing it, we didn't know. So I make it solutions, and it was fine, but we had to work a lot. So then I make this big piece with two pieces crossing each other too. And then I had been invited to exhibit in this, it was something that it was supposed to be somewhere else, but then there was I tell the story because it's an interesting story. It was supposed to be at the Salpêtrière, which is a church in Paris, and the Festival d'Automne always does every year, the Festival d'Automne that invites somebody to show in this church, in the hospital, Salpêtrière, amazing church. And they invite Nan Goldin to do an exhibition there. And I was supposed to do the exhibition in the other year. And they said that to me, I said, but you're going to have a Nan Goldin exhibition on the church. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the work of Nan Goldin. But the work of Nan Goldin is very hardcore, you know. And no, this is great. Nan Goldin is very religious. Yeah. They decided to shut down the relationship with the Festival d'Automne because of the exhibition of Nan Goldin, which was a great exhibition anyway. And then, but you know, I think it's that time that the Catholic Church was becoming very powerful, the right wing was becoming very powerful, so I think the right wing of the council used the opportunity to put the left wing out, you know, I think the people who like culture, art, and, you know, whatever. And then they get very, very confused, and then they said, well, Ernesto, we are very sorry, we can't do the exhibition. Let's see, we're going to find another place. So 6 months later, they asked me if I would like to do a piece at the Pantheon, which is that building, much bigger and much more brute and much more masculine than the Salpêtrière, but it still was a church, supposed to be a church. But when it had been built by Louis something, who wanted to show the power, revolution, the bourgeois revolution, the French Revolution came and put him out of the power, so it becomes the place for the big names, a temple. But then Napoleon comes and it becomes again a church, and then somebody else comes, it becomes a new name. I don't know, it's 200 years of history becoming one thing and the other. It was very interesting to be there. So this is the top drawing of the piece. For you understand that there is very clear geometry. This piece, you don't see the background. So let me see if I can take it. No, it doesn't change, no? Yeah, anyway, that is the background in the computer. Oh, nothing, But too much contrast. But the thing is that the piece is hanging by these points. They're very symmetrical. They're divided in elements, and each point of that is correspondent to a hole in the top of the roof, in the top of the ceiling. In between the ceiling of the roof, you must have a space like, I don't know, this tall, like here, a roof. And that is all the wood, all the structure of the wood. So from these holes, we could pull with some poly system, some alpinist people, pull the thing up, and then we could hang the piece and tie it over there. So it was, we didn't touch exactly and there is the pendle in the center of this exhibition. So this is the piece, named Leviathan Torch. Oh, back in town. So that's my hometown, Rio De Janeiro. It's a gallery named Arthur Fidalgo Gallery. And this guy invited me to do an exhibition there, but I was so busy I couldn't do it. I said, no, man, we make next year. And they said, okay, but next year is going to arrive. I waited for that. I said, no problem. And then I was with, this thing of kids. I began to have kids, and the kids had friends, and the friends of kids had parents. And then we begin to have this mixing of people, and we have beers, and, began to be crazy relationship between the universe of the kids and the universe of the adults. It's very interesting how one universe can oxygenate the other one. So I decided to make this kind of living room because I think it was amazing, this situation, and trying to put the kids' universe on this situation. And it was great to this exhibition. It was the best opening I have ever had in my life. And I make this bench. In fact, there is a piece here. There is a reader cut with laser cut. So you make the drawing in the computer, you send the file, and they cut. It's so magic. And they send it to you. You don't need even to see the people. So all this furniture is made by laser cut. So I decided to make this connection, to build. I like to play. So the problem is, you just can't connect in an orthogonal way. And I begin to play with this thing. Then I make this bench, was the first thing, then I make the chair, and make the table, and make the shelf. Because I want to make a kind of little library there. They invite some friends to have their works there too, because there was this thing of Gentil Carioca with this gallery that I run with 2 other artists. So there is this environment of other artists around. And, this is laser cut. When this arrives, this black part, what's the black part? Is the effect of the laser on the wood. Laser, for somebody who likes spaceship, was the representation of the future. And when these pieces of wood with coated wood, now with Formica, arrive, it smells like had been burned. It smells like fire. So the avant-garde of the technology in the myth, in the myth area, for a kid from the 60s, was the laser. And now the laser is fire, the oldest technology. So I enjoy that very much. So this is the bench. This is not laser cut, this is a rounder cut. And this is the bench unbenched. And then I had been invited to go to Calder's studio. Oh my God, it was so fascinating to be there. Calder, I couldn't believe when I received the invitation. Yes, sure, I go. Tell me where is it, I go. And I begin to make this sculpture. Back. The thing is that when I was doing this exhibition here, I was thinking about, I have boxes. They have boxes. They have boxes of little cars. little toys. They had box of little balls. They had box of Lego. You know, it's amount of little things that the kids has. And I work with bags of things, so was very interesting this situation. And I wanted to do a kind of toy, this toy that you connect, these rings that you connect, that I play when I was a kid. Because we could make that through the laser cut, or round the cut, or water cut, whatever. And then I didn't have the time to do it. So when I went to Sachet, I wanted to develop that. And I thought that I could make long legs, connections, 2 points with a line, and I began to work with that. So this would be a classical piece, like with this the traditional one, the one that begin like that, making the round thing. I didn't begin exactly, I begin like that, yeah. Then with this is the first system that I did. And this situation here, the name of this dish, which goes all the way there, is a building like this, you know, and we are here on this building. And there is a platform. I made a platform, and where these guys are, there is a staircase that you can go up and see what's going on in this kind of hypothetical water line. The name is from Sebastian to Olivia. I wanted, because the room are like that. It began just because of it. The room are like here. When I went there the first time, there is a woman working here. And I walk here and I walk in her direction. I ask for a piece of paper to try to draw something. And then I asked her name. She said her name was Olivia. And when I was getting out here, the gallery was Max Hessner gallery in Germany. And there was a guy here. And I said, what's your name? And he said, my name is Sebastian. And I staged this thing with this fantasy that there is these two guys working in the same gallery, but because of the corner, they cannot see each other, you know. And then there is a relationship between them without them seeing each other. So I decided to divide the room in these 2 floors, in these 2 levels. And then there is the holes for the sculpture, as the sculpture was an island. This is another piece I did last year with steel, you know, of this material, which was amazing to put up. Very simple, in fact, but scary a little bit. But when I was doing this research, besides that, I did this piece, which is a kind of cell, you know. And then I did this one, is a more complex idea of cell. That's named The Myth into the Myth. No, and Into the Mist. And then I make this piece, that is The Wisdom of the Parts, at Tânia Bonacci Gallery. And then, that's the Anthropodino, that maybe you guys have seen that. And that's the end. Okay? Sorry if I disturb you. Thanks a lot. So, if anybody has some question, I'm here. Not forever. Okay? Sorry. You know, remember that piece that was the ball piece with the bar in the top? You know? The ball piece in the bar in the top? I think I love this piece. This piece is fundamental for the development of my work. But it was so stupid to see that in a gallery. Because when you go to a gallery, everything is expected. You know? You see, oh, must be art. But if you are on the street, and that piece was on the street, with that ball and that bar there, it's an action. Somebody did that. This thing doesn't happen by chance, you know. And would be something, it could make it have much more touching, I think, much more intensity on the situation of the people in itself. So now I'm doing a piece for the Hayward Gallery that there is 3 big verandas like this big, you know. So I made it 3 pieces for the outside. But it's not something that I really do very much because I don't know exactly because. But first I work very much with textile. But I don't think it's just that. Once I have share a studio with a friend of mine, was in the time of that piece. And I have my piece outside, you know. and I live in an apartment. I don't really have the outside. I don't deal with the outside, you know. So I don't have this experience very much. Even though I go to the beach, for example, this Malmo piece. For me, this Malmo piece is completely the representation of the beach in Rio De Janeiro. You know, when I came back came back from Malmo, and I arrived like 6 o'clock in the morning in Rio De Janeiro, and I arrived home. The kids was in the hand of the grandmother, and I said, let's go to the beach. We pick up our Havaiana, went to the beach, and then I stuck my feet on the sand. I looked to one side of the sand. That's not. You know, I was not thinking about that. I was just living, you know. But it's a situation that, it's a situation that maybe it's going to come in my life, but that's what I'm doing mostly now. Not so much things outside or even on the ground, on the streets, like, you know, like the situation that I thought that would be the best situation for a piece like that, to be in a place that nobody's expecting the art in itself.
Last question. So I just want to say thank you to Ernesto, and I think it was a real privilege for the audience that you took us inside the inside of the inside of the inside. It was really a special evening, and if you have ever a chance to connect to this work, you have to find an excuse. Because even if I say at the beginning that even with the images you somehow get swallowed by the work, it's something else to be really eaten in the gallery by these pieces. I also want to say that
I think it's very important, the passageway between one thing to the other, you know. There is a woman named Lygia Clark that she made a piece very old, named, I don't know the name of the piece, but it was a painting. Let's see, let's use this. Let's say that this is the canvas and this is the frame. So she made a flat frame like that, you know, very flat and long. And she drawing like this, a square here, concrete drawings. Another square here, another square inside of this square. Yeah. So this line in between the frame and the painting itself, she called this line the organic line. And this had been the line for her work for a very long time, you know. I think my work has a lot to do with this situation, of being between, you know, the mouth. Mouth are very important because with the mouth we can speak for the people, we can kiss the people, we can express ourselves, we can eat, we can vomitate it. So through our mouth, many things get in and out, you know. And the lips are a masterpiece, isn't it? I mean, the eyes are incredible too. But it's so, there is this situation. So I think the passageway between one thing to the other are very important, you know. So all these sculptures, when you see it, because this is how he said, there's a trip inside of the surfing on the sculpture. But there is a question, everything that's going on is a detail that is reflecting about the same thing. How to cross from one side to the other side a little bit.
Yeah, but this is why I hope you come back to the school sometime, because you're an expert on relationship of inside and outside. And architecture is never more than that.
Yeah, but you know,
it's often less than that.
I think I said that to you. I begin to think one day that the architecture is just it's just the skin.
Yeah.
Because you have the urbanism outside. And when you have to organize the architecture inside, where it's going to be the room, where it's going to be the kitchen, where it's going to be the toilet, the corridors, you are organizing another urbanism. So the feeling that I begin to have is that if you have the urbanism outside, and then you have a membrane, and then you have the urbanism in outside. So the architecture is this one that stay in this organic line, let's say. Because, I mean, she didn't. This is in the world. But
anyway, I also want to thank the Brazilian Council for their incredible friendship and helping us to make the excuse for Ernesto to come. And I'm hoping we invent another excuse. As you know, the whole point of this week about Brazil is to somehow attack two stories about Brazil that I think are both very stupid. One is the story of Brazil eternally beautiful, flexible, and the other is the story of Brazil eternally troubled with huge problems. And I think these two stories, which are the exact sort of story, endless beauty, endless love, and endless fear, and endless horror, these are two two very destructive stories. And what people miss is that Brazil is one of the great laboratories for new forms of intelligence. And for us, it's a huge privilege to be in Rio with our own laboratory. And this is almost like the revenge of Rio. And I think one of the nice things about your lecture is to make us all feel just a little bit stupid.
I feel stupid too.
Yeah. So, anyway, thank you.